What might have been. Footage has just leaked from a never-made live-action Star Wars show called Underworld. Now I'm going to explain why this show never went to series and break down the footage, and then we can all argue about whether or not this show would have sucked. So, what is Underworld? Well, following Revenge of the Sith's release in 2005, George Lucas announced that there would be no more Star Wars movies, but he planned on taking the show into television. Now, up to this point, Star Wars and TV didn't mix. We had the Star Wars Holiday Special, 2 Ewok movies, and a couple of Saturday morning cartoons. But Lucas still wanted to bring his serialized story into a serialized format, television. Lucasfilm developed 3 projects that we know of. One is the Clone Wars, which everybody loves and is about to get its final season. Then there was another animated show called Star Wars Detours. Now this was a Star Wars parody series co-created by Seth Green from Robot Chicken.
Eddie! Little Eddie!
Jar Jar.
They actually made 26 episodes of this that no network would air.
This is no space mall.
Matt Singer actually wrote an in-depth piece about Star Wars Detours that you can find on screencrush.com. Anyways, the third project was a live-action show called Underworld. It was set between the trilogies. It would have taken place in the seedy underbelly of Coruscant, and they called it Deadwood in Space.
And here's my counteroffer to your counteroffer. Go yourself.
Boba Fett was even going to return as a recurring character. And the legendary Ronald Moore, former showrunner of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Battlestar Galactica, even worked on this show.
One of the great experiences of my life was sitting in a room with George Lucas and arguing about Darth Vader.
And they actually wrote 100 hour-long scripts and planned a tie-in video game called 1313. And they shot the test footage that we're about to look at. But turns out the darn thing was just too expensive. According to Star Wars producer Rick McCallum, each episode would have cost $20 million, but they only had the budget for $1 million per episode.
Each hour has more visual effects and digital animation than any of the films that we've done, and we just don't have the technology now to do that.
After Disney bought Lucasfilm, they threw these scripts in the trash compactor and developed their own live-action Underworld show, The Mandalorian. This footage was leaked by Stargate Studios, a VFX company that's done work for major TV shows, including Doctor Who and The Walking Dead. The leak also comes with a making of reel, which lets us see just how much of this environment was digital. But enough history. Let's take a look at what might have been. The show takes place on Coruscant's lower levels, which we've previously seen in Attack of the Clones. But in this show, the underbelly just looks dirtier. It borrows a lot more from Blade Runner than it does the prequels. Now, I imagine they don't get much sunlight on these lower levels, and everything is grimy and it feels lived in, the way the original trilogy always had dirty corners in the background. And notice that the streets are covered in trash. This shot of the Rebels' legs also sets the show apart from the rest of Star Wars. The women in Star Wars are rarely objectified. I said rarely, but right off the bat, the show is introducing their hero as an attractive woman, the kind of rebel who can use her appearance to seduce Imperial officers to acquire intel for the Alliance. And I was surprised to see that this entire environment was digital. It looks really filthy, but in a good way. Also, the stormtroopers are played by real actors, and this is another departure from the prequels where the clone troopers were all CGI. That's right, they never built a single clone trooper armor for the prequels. There's also a recurring bird's eye POV from this probe droid, which is a very prequel looking droid, except it's grungy, whereas prequel droids tend to be very sanitized. Now this is a nice way of mixing prequel technology with the original trilogy aesthetic. Years later, we would see this marriage of technology and grime in Rogue One and The Mandalorian. There's a lot of Arabic letters in the scene, most of which are pretty basic. Get it? Like spelling out the alphabet at the bottom of the screen. Then I noticed these letters in the corner because they translate to my name, Ryan. And yes, I can recognize my own name in Arabic. I was that kid in high school. It turns out that this is the name of Ryan Wyber, a VFX compositor who worked for Stargate Studios. Anyways, I love the dark corners, the spy game feel of this street scene. It's like anyone could be a double agent or a gangster. You never know which direction trouble is going to come from. There's even what looks like sex workers later in the scene. Now the reel is a little light on aliens or CG characters because this is more to show off the environment compositing. So a lot of the characters look pretty generic, like these orange ladies.
To move along. This area is threat level orange.
And the props are pretty awful too, like this machine that's made out of dryer tubes that looks like it's from a Star Wars recut video. When the rebel approaches her first contact, she says,
"I was sent from Alistair."
Malastare was first mentioned in The Phantom Menace,
and only team of Malastare.
It's the home planet of the Dugs, like Sebulba, and we saw it in the Clone Wars when the Republic captured a Zilla beast and brought it back to Coruscant. Notice how long the shot lingers on her contact.
We could not have done this without you.
This is a very TV moment. Shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation would often use these shots to crescendo music just before the commercial break. So this shows they were already thinking of how Star Wars would translate to a different medium. This line,
I think this is some kind of drill.
made me laugh out loud because it reminded me of this.
Hey, did you hear something? Probably just another drill.
Anyways, the hero hacks this console to download Star Destroyer schematics, typical Rebel plot, am I right? And these letters spell out SWTV for Star Wars TV. And that just shows the enthusiasm that these VFX guys must have had for this project. I mean, they were actually getting to make a new Star Wars, which in 2009 was still a rare thing that we didn't think we'd ever get to see. You can also see this enthusiasm throughout the clip in the small touches, like this Imperial flag. And the reel also features a small cameo from a very popular original trilogy character. In the background right here is your mom. In the background, a stormtrooper says,
How long have you had these droids?
Now they asked Obi-Wan the same question in Mos Eisley.
How long have you had these droids?
About 3 or 4 seasons.
It's kind of like the space version of the TSA asking if you packed your own bag. The hero takes this intel into an arms dealer and we hear the standard Star Wars gibberish language. When she's discovered, the droid flashes an alliance symbol with the word rebel beneath it. But it's this brief action scene that really sets this apart from the rest of Star Wars. The stormtroopers say one word that could have completely changed the context of the saga.
We have a positive ID on a terrorist vehicle.
Star Wars has never called any side in a conflict a terrorist before, but here we see an Alliance agent using terrorist tactics. Now this really made me wonder, how dark was this show going to get? In this last fight, the hero pulls out what looks like a lightsaber, but instead she employs the terrorist tactic of detonating a car bomb on the street. I mean, yep, this was definitely a new kind of Star Wars show. Lucas had just pushed Star Wars into the PG-13 territory with Revenge of the Sith. So who knows how gritty the saga was about to get. I mean, this show looks as grimdark as The Mandalorian, but without Baby Yoda to balance it out. How gritty can Star Wars get? What's the limit? Let me know what you think in the comments. Oh, and there's also a Wilhelm screen because this is still Star Wars after all. Like I said, guys, let me know what you think in the comments, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I am Ryan Airy.